Hey everyone, welcome to Adventures in Everyday Cooking, where every day can be an adventure in your kitchen. My name is Heather and I'm back. And to blast off with this brand new season of pumpkin stuff, we're gonna do something pumpkin because I've been making sourdough pumpkin bread. No. Pumpkin sourdough bread. Pumpkin sourdough bread in the shape of a pumpkin. It's so cute and it's so delicious and you're gonna wanna make it. If you are a sourdough baker, stick around. It's so easy. You just add a couple things and there you go. It's beautiful. So you ready for this adventure? Here's what you're gonna need. You're gonna need some pumpkin, some turmeric, some pumpkin pie spice, and a little bit of maple syrup. If you don't have maple syrup, you can use any kind of syrupy thing like honey or golden syrup, but you'll wanna use maple syrup because it just gives it that something. So if you're ready for this adventure, let's get started. All right, confession time. Usually I do my sourdough bread in my KitchenAid. It works great. There's no reason to not do it. But for today, we're gonna go ahead and do it in a bowl so that everybody can do it, even if you don't have a KitchenAid or some kind of stand mixer. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get our scale zeroed out with our bowl on it because I wanna be able to weigh out my starter and everything else right in the bowl. So usually you don't have to have all of these things for this bread, but I have them measured out for you just so that it's a little easier. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put in 300 grams of filtered water. Now, does it have to be filtered? Oh, so here's the thing. If you are making sourdough bread with your regular Joe average water that comes from the tap and it's successful, keep on doing that. You can use that. For those of you in highly chlorinated or fluoridated areas, you definitely should use some kind of bottled water or non-chlorinated water or else your sourdough starter is not gonna do very well. That being said, 300 grams right into our bowl. And now we have our sourdough starter here. It has been rising for about 5 hours and it is ready to go into our bowl. So let's go ahead and get it in about 100 grams. Okay, so you'll notice in the bowl, the starter is floating. That means that my starter is totally ready to go and I'm pretty happy about that. So I'm going to take a wooden spoon or something else. We're gonna just break it up as best as we can. And as we're breaking it up, we're gonna add our pumpkin. That's 100 grams of pumpkin. Give it a good stir. We're gonna add our maple syrup. That is 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. We're gonna do our pumpkin pie spice. That is 1 tablespoon. Our turmeric, now the turmeric is just for color, it really doesn't add any flavor to the bread, 2 teaspoons. Then we are gonna add our salt. I know, those of you who have done sourdough baking before, you're probably super confused right now. You're like, what, why are you adding all of the dry in with the wet like this? There's a good reason. Because once we start to knead this dough, we want all of the liquid to be seasoned with all of the seasonings. All right, we'll go ahead and zero it out. And now we're going to add 500 grams of flour. Okay, and now slowly we're just gonna incorporate all of these things. I have my bowl scraper right here, my dough bowl scraper, because I'm gonna wanna scrape it off of the edges of my bowl in just a second. If you have a dough whisk, you can also use that, but I don't have one because I usually do mine in the food processor. And it's gonna look like, as you mix, that you have way too much flour in your bowl. That is not true. It's gonna suck it all in there and we'll have a wet, sticky, shaggy dough in just a moment. And if you're tired of using your spoon, you can go in with your hands, but I love the feel of dough after the autolyse. I don't much like it whenever it sticks to my hands in globs. And this will take about 3 minutes maybe to come together in a shaggy dough. All right, I lied. I'm gonna use my hands. Okay, I'm gonna flour up my hands just a little bit, and then I'm just gonna take it in here, push it around, and it is very sticky. So we're just trying to incorporate all of that flour. And I'm scraping the bowl because this is the bowl that I'm gonna use to proof and fold and all that other good stuff. Now, you'll want a little bit more flour because you don't want it to be so sticky that it's sticking to your hands. So add probably like another tablespoon if your flour is overhydrating. So you still want it to be a little bit sticky, but not like globby sticky. Now, you can do a couple things. Like right now, this is where we're gonna go into the turn and folds. You can put it in a new container, or you can take a little olive oil, just a little bit, go around the outside. We're talking like 1/8 of a teaspoon. Oil up your bowl, and then take your dough scraper, get the oil underneath it, and then we're just gonna leave it in this bowl. I'm gonna cover it. All right, so now we're going to cover this lightly. Don't make it airtight because we want air to be able to escape a little, but now we're gonna go into the turn and fold. We're gonna set timers for 30 minutes. We're gonna set 5 of them, so that's 2.5 hours. Every time the timer goes off, you're gonna do this. With clean, wet hands, you're gonna open up the bowl, and then you're gonna take from the side and pull, and pull, and pull, and pull, and pull, and maybe one more pull, and that's it. Now we're gonna cover it and do the same thing every 30 minutes, 4 times. And again, with wet hands, we're gonna uncover, we're gonna do everything we've already done, but this time you'll notice the dough is much more elastic, and that's exactly what you want. This looks great. And with the last 3 turn and folds, you just wanna kind of do a blanket fold. So you pick up, pull over, and put down. And again, with wet hands, we are gonna do our last stretch and fold. So with this one, I like to pick it up and do the same thing that we've done the last 2 times. Just basically fold it over itself and then fold it going the opposite direction. There we go. Now it's time for the bulk ferment. Now, most of the time you can just leave it in the same bowl that it's in, cover it loosely, and leave it at room temperature for anywhere from 6 to 10 hours, just depending on how hot it is. You want it to rise about 40%. Now, the best way to figure out what 40% is get yourself some other kind of small container and just take a teeny tiny bit of piece of dough from the corner, and you can incorporate this dough later. And we're gonna put it in the bottom of this glass. And then I will go ahead and do one more stretch and fold just so it looks nice and pretty, and I'll cover it and I'll show you here. So this is my little piece of dough in the glass. So then looking at this, there's about 2 teaspoons in here. So I know that it will be ready to go to the next step when it hits about the 3 teaspoon mark, and then this will be ready to shape. And that takes about 6 to 10 hours. If it's really cold in your house, it may take a little longer. If it's really hot in your house, it may take a little bit shorter. So just watch it, which is why this is a good idea, so you can really gauge what's going on. And then I'll be back here when it's ready. All right, 6 to 7 hours later, check that out. That looks gorgeous. So what you're gonna wanna do is turn it out onto a clean counter, or I have a pastry mat. I love to use my pastry mat. It means that everything doesn't stick, and I'm just gonna let gravity kind of pull it down. If you're impatient, you can get your scraper up in there and scrape it out, but good things come to those that wait, right? Perfect. Look at those. Already you can see nice and fermented, and the temperature of my dough is so good right now. Okay, so here's the part where it's gonna depend on your own personal dough. If your dough is still really sticky, you're gonna need to flour your hands, but if your dough kind of feels it'll be a little bit more tacky than normal sourdough, then you can probably get by with no more flour. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do our pre-shaping. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this out into all directions. Now, if you wanted to put any inclusions, this is the time you would do that. So if you were gonna do, say, Chocolate chips, I would just sprinkle all the chocolate chips over, reserve a couple, and then we'll put it in the roll. But we're gonna do just like this. So I just pick a side. I don't really care which side that I go to. And I just start to roll kind of like a cinnamon roll. And I know some people are like, oh, why do you do it like that? I find that when I do it like this, I get better texture on my bread. It is a little bit sticky, so I may actually get a little bit more flour, but I'm committed. And then I'm gonna take the shorter end over here, and I'm gonna do the same roll, and roll, and roll, and roll, and roll. And then I'm going to move it. Whoa, hold on. See, I do need flour, hold on. So I'm just gonna sprinkle some flour right here. I'm gonna put some right on the top so that it's easier for me to handle, because right now you don't want wet hands, you want dry hands. And we're going to tuck and roll. Yeah, it's way stickier than normal, so I'm glad I got that flour out. All right, so push it around, push it around, push it around, push it around until we have a nice tight ball. Then we're gonna let it sit while we get our Banneton ready. So I'm gonna go ahead and flop that right over there. And here is what we're going to do. So we're making this into a pumpkin shape. So this will be perfect for those holiday tables where you want to be a centerpiece. So we have about, let's see, how many feet is this? This is this is about 2.5 feet of kitchen twine. And I'm gonna stick it into a bowl with some olive oil. And we're just gonna oil it up just a little bit. This will help it to not stick to the dough quite so emphatically, but it's gonna stick anyway, you'll see. But we're gonna leave that for about 5 minutes or so, and then we're gonna take stock and decide how many times we're going to shape it. Note, this is a softer dough, so it's not gonna kind of firm up the same way that your regular sourdough does. All right, now with some floured hands, we're gonna scoop up the ball, we're gonna turn it over, and we're gonna do the same thing that we just did a second ago. Now, if you put inclusions in it, do not do this step. You're already done, you need to get it into the Banneton and you're good to go. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push it out, and then I am going to take my smallest end and I'm going to roll it like a cinnamon roll again. Turn it over, seam side up, and then roll it and tug until I have a nice shapely loaf. All right, so now that we have that, we're gonna set it off to the side. Hopefully it's not sticking. We'll just put a little flour on there. And we're gonna deal with our Banneton here. Now, if you don't have a Banneton, you can use a small bowl, something that will hold your dough kind of in that round shape. I'm gonna flour my Banneton with rice flour. You can use regular flour. I just prefer rice flour to regular flour, and that's a new development. And then this is what we're gonna do with all of our strings. We're going to lay them out kind of evenly on our Banneton. So I will do, and these are 4 strings. I don't know if I said that earlier. So 4 strings, and we're just gonna lay them right equally along our Banneton so that it looks like that. Now, we are going to take our beautiful loaf and we're gonna scoop up our loaf, push, 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 and then we're gonna turn it upside down into our Banneton, like that. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these 2 strings and we're going to tie lightly. You're gonna want to pull this, don't do it. So there we go. So see how you can't tell that I mean, you can tell because I obviously tied it, but it's not like cinching. So, and try to get it right in the same area, the knot in the same area as the last knot. That will be important later. Okay, now here at the end, I'm gonna take all of my strings and I am going to make 1 knot. just like that. And then I'm going to trim off all of that. Now you are going to cover it. So I have Banneton covers that work really well for these Bannetons. And I cover mine, and I'm going to get it into the refrigerator for anywhere from 3 hours to overnight. This one will be overnight, so you'll see me tomorrow cooking this. But into the refrigerator it needs to go for this time because it needs to firm up as a dough, because you want it to be a hot spring when you get to the oven. So that being said, we'll see you in tomorrow. Okay, it has been well over 3 hours. I actually let this sit in my refrigerator for 24 hours, and now we're gonna bake it. And when it comes out, it'll look like this. If there is any condensation on the top, blot it off, but usually I don't even bother because we're gonna eat it anyway and it's gonna look beautiful. Okay, now I'm gonna take a piece of parchment. If you have a sourdough lower, then you use that. I'm using a clay baker today, but if you're using a Dutch oven, just set your Dutch oven just like you would bake any other type of sourdough. Get it in there, preheating, and then follow your normal cooking directions, which is probably about 30 minutes with the lid closed, and then put some moisture in there, and then like 20-30 minutes with it open. But I'm gonna do it in a clay pot today. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do it in a clay pot, and I'll show you how it works. So, oh, I didn't even tell you what I was doing. So I took my piece of parchment paper and I just folded it into a triangle, and then I cut across so that I get a little bit of a flower-like circle. That way I have somewhere to pull up on whenever I do this. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my parchment, set it right over the top, and then I'm going to flip it over. Boop, like that. Lift it up. Now, this is going to be our pumpkin. So it's very important at this point that we pay attention to where all of that rice flour or regular flour is. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually spread it around, because it will stay on there and that will add to the beauty of this loaf. Now, as you can see, look on this side. See how this side is nicely coated? This side doesn't really have any at all. So I'm gonna push this over here and try to get some down on that. So it's just evenly dispersed. And I have a little bit of rice flour all over. That looks great. Okay, so now what do? You can do nothing to this and it will rise a little bit and look beautiful, but I'm gonna actually make some like designs going down each of these things, and I'm just gonna do something really, really simple. So first of all, we're gonna make shallow cuts. So there's a deep cut, which is where your loaf is gonna explode, and then there are shallow cuts where they just explode a little bit. So we're making shallow cuts. So I'm gonna start by just making diagonal slashes. I'm gonna do it on both sides, kind of like a Christmas tree, only it's not a Christmas tree, it's just a little bit of a design. Then on the next one, I'm gonna do the opposite. So I'll do the slashes going upward, and remember, we're doing this very light. Now the next one, I'm gonna do downward. And so on and so forth until you get to the end. Like, you can put anything you want. If you're a good artist with your tool, you can do something artsy fartsy, but I am not a very good artist with my lamb here. So I just do the best that I can with what I have. And I have noticed that if I just do this, it still looks beautiful, even if it's, you know, like pretty basic, and that's okay. All right, and now that it's scored, we are going to get our clay pot ready. So this is a clay baker. This is your Eureka clay baker. I absolutely love using it. You have to soak it for at least 20 minutes before you use it. So that's why I'm drying it off. And there it is, all nice and scored. All right, and once it's dry, we're going to drop this right inside. Now, if you are using your already preheated Dutch oven, it's already preheated in your oven, just drop it down in and do everything you know to do. I've noticed that this loaf takes a little bit longer, so give yourself maybe an extra 5 or 10 minutes, And do not take your bread out until the internal temperature reaches at least 200 degrees. So I'm gonna put my lid on, and then I'm gonna get it into a cold oven for 450 degrees for 40 minutes. Then I'm gonna take off the top for 20 minutes and then take it out of the thing for 10 or so, depending on what color I want it to be. So I'll see you when it's all done. Okay, you guys, check out this beautiful bread. Look at how beautiful it is. Look at that. So what we're gonna do is we are going to snip off all of these. Now, when you snip, don't pull. You're gonna wait to pull until you snip them all because they are stuck to your bread. So you want to make sure they're completely, otherwise you will destroy your beautiful Thanksgiving centerpiece. It's so cute. Okay, so carefully, let me turn it this way. We're going to pull one at a time to here. Okay, here's a good, so right here, you see how it's kind of baked in there? What I'm gonna do is I'm going to take this and pull it through like this so that you don't tear that lovely, lovely bulb. And the last one, bum, bum, bum. Whoosh, ta-da! Okay, check this thing out. Now, take your scissors, poke a hole right in the center, and then get yourself a cinnamon stick and stuff it on in there. And now you have your totally cute, adorable pumpkin. Look at how cute that is. Now, this will make an awesome addition to your holiday table. It's so cute. You can see all of the little marks. It's just adorable, adorable. And I make them a lot during the holiday season. Here's another one. In fact, we're gonna go ahead and cut this one because this one is still warm and this one is not. So let's cut into it so I can show you. And let's go ahead and cut into this. Oh yeah. Ready? Dun, dun, dun. Look at that beautiful bread. Pumpkin sourdough bread, you guys. It's amazing. Now, you can cut it like cake and serve it like this and people can just eat it like cake. I don't really recommend that. It is a very strong bread, but if you like pumpkin, you will absolutely love this bread. So I'll just cut off a piece and find my butter. All right, let's take some of this butter, take some of this gorgeous bread, smear, that's maybe a little bit too much butter. And, oh my goodness. It tastes like the perfect mixture between sourdough and pumpkin bread. It's fantastic. Nice and chewy. The crumb is still nice and open, like you can see there, and the texture is so fantastic. This is a denser bread than your regular sourdough bread, but oh my goodness, it is so good. And it is so fun. Look at that. Isn't that adorable? All right, you guys, well, there you have it. Pumpkin sourdough bread. I will mention that our favorite pumpkin sourdough bread is when you put some chocolate chips on the inside, because then you have pumpkin chocolate chip sourdough bread and then you smear it with some cinnamon butter. That's delicious. But you don't have to take my word for it. You should try it out. All right, you guys, well, if you enjoyed that video, give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. I do videos about everything. Baking, air frying, sous videing, Instant Pot, you name it. If you have any ideas for me or you want to know how something works or how something doesn't work, leave me a comment. Otherwise, you guys, I'm gonna get this to my holiday table because isn't it cute? It's so cute. I've seriously made like 20 of these already and it's barely like November 6th. Bye, guys.